All right, guys, welcome back to Stumblin Forward. I'm one of your hosts, Kristen Herman, and
I'm Monica Ortega.
all right, and today we're speaking to Danny Max. Danny joined the KFI team as a news anchor in 2020 before hitting the Los Angeles airwaves. Danny worked in TV news as an anchor, reporter, producer at KEYT in Santa Barbara, where he anchored breaking news coverage. Danny got his start in news as a reporter and anchor in Waco, Texas. If Danny looks familiar, it's probably because you've seen him play a reporter on TV shows, including American Horror Story in 1984, 911, Lone Star, NCIS, or heard his voice in the Netflix smash hit Bird Box. Thanks so much for joining us, Danny. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you both for having me.
Of course, yeah. So how about we start with just who you are, besides what I just read, of course, and just everything about you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I'll start at the beginning. I was originally born in Chicago, but then I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, in like a suburb called Scottsdale. And growing up, I got really into theater as a kid. That was kind of my big thing. Doing plays at school, and that continued into high school. And so that was really where my passion was when I was growing up. I really wanted to be an actor. And I started getting serious about it, like in my later teen years, and had been approached by like an agent to do some like local like acting and modeling. And then I ended up, I'd been accepted to a University of Arizona. I'd gotten into their theater program. But then I was planning on going to college right away and study theater, but then an agent in LA wanted to sign me. So I thought, all right, I'm going to give this a shot and just move to LA. I got an agent, right? That's like most of the battle. No, not at all. I fell on my face, and being 18, 19 years old living in LA is tough because you're younger than everyone, right? And I studied for a number of years, and after a couple years, I started booking, had done some TV, did a couple independent films, but it was up and down, you know. Sometimes you work, sometimes you're slow, and really kind of supported myself through for a number of years by working in a restaurant like a lot of other actors do. Where I met Kristen, and bartending for a number of years, and it was a grind. I think though, looking back on it, you learn so many things working in a restaurant though, that you learn these sort of soft skills that you can take anywhere and that are very applicable.
Did you work in a restaurant anytime in your high school or anything like that? Or was this the first time in a restaurant like setting?
I worked in a pizza place while I was in high school, which was a tough job because I have so much respect for cooks too, because that kitchen, and this was in Phoenix, so the kitchen would be 100 degrees all the time, hot.
Oh my God. That's brutal.
So much. Making minimum wage, and it was a hard job. So I did that, and then I worked for like the fast food version of the restaurant we worked at,
what is it?
I don't know if we're supposed to say the name or not.
Oh, I don't know either if we can say. I mean, it was P.F. Chang's, but I'm thinking that you worked at Panda Express.
Well, there was a Payway.
Sponsors will be
over.
There was a Payway was sort of the fast food version of P.F. Chang's. I worked there in high school too, so I'd had like an introduction, but definitely wasn't prepared for what was in store for me at the Sherman Oaks Galleria. My goodness, in terms of
it was a challenge. I mean, this is off topic, but man, it took me a minute to get into that restaurant setting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get that.
Great regulars, met some great people there, obviously made a lot of friends there. I mean, it was really nice. I felt like it was also kind of this hub because there were so many people that were living in LA that, it was a job, but people were oftentimes, passionate about doing something else, they sort of moved to LA. So there was this sort of sense of community too, because it was, so many artists and things. And so again, and that was the consistent thing. It was a great way to make money while I pursued other things. And then because I'd passed on school when I was 18, I really wanted to go back. I'd always felt like I missed out on that. And I always saw I just felt weird not getting a degree. It's always something I wanted to do. So I went back to school and I put myself through community college, and then I transferred to a 4-year university, got my degree, and I had thought about studying film or TV, but I wanted to do something a little different because I had so much experience in like the school of the hard knocks and studied acting with so many studios around town that I wanted to diversify. And my now wife told me, it was actually her idea. She's like, why don't you study journalism? You're a good writer. You love sports. You like politics. You like all that. And it's production. It's live, but it's also TV. That might be perfect for you. So I started taking some journalism classes, and I really fell in love with it. And I feel like it kind of chose me. So I got my degree in that. And then after applying to a number of stations around the country, I got my first news job in Waco, Texas, which is, I don't know if you've seen Fixer Upper with Chip and Joanna Gaines.
Yes.
There's that part of Waco. It's very wholesome, but it's also, there's a lot of rural communities just outside of, Baylor and all that too. So it was culture shock going from LA to Texas.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, I'm like, so you moved there and you were in like a whole different, state just for a job.
And you're by yourself, and the first news market you work in, you really don't get paid a lot. It was kind of shocking, but I knew it was a great opportunity because I was going to be a reporter. I was going to get to anchor an early morning show every day and produce. So it was just a great opportunity. So I had to take it. And I learned so much. I probably learned more about journalism and TV news in my first 2 weeks than I did in all of college. And that's not to say I didn't have a great education, because I think that I did. I think I went to Cal State Northridge, which I think is a really good school for, and I think is underrated. But that real world experience where in a newsroom, it's really baptism by fire. Because like local stations are constantly facing budget cuts and stuff. So they need people that can just come in and deliver right away. So you're just thrown into the fire.
Do you feel like with that, you said you learned a lot in 2 weeks, but do you feel like you rose to the occasion, or was it something where you were like, am I in over my head? Were you questioning yourself?
Oh, all the time. I mean, yeah, because it was a morning show, I was an overnight reporter, which meant my shift started at 9:30 p.m. and it went till about 7 a.m. the next day. So I had to become nocturnal as well. So I'd sleep during the day, get up at night. And yeah, I think it was my second night of training. They didn't have a reporter for me to shadow, and there was a bomb threat at a Walmart. There was a semi-truck that overturned on the freeway, and then there was a stabbing in a house, and I had to go to all three in one night. I barely even knew how to use the camera. I think I was wearing, too, just to show that I was clearly like from LA working in Texas, I was wearing a pair of Toms, those like slip-on shoes.
I mean, like, thankfully they usually don't show your shoes.
Right. But it was
like usually top up.
Yeah. I needed like something a little more heavy duty, like even a Ked would have been probably better. But I remember just having this thought the whole time I was doing, like, what am I doing? Like, this is crazy. I'm in the middle of the night and I'm going to this bomb threat at a Walmart. And
I mean, you did have a cameraman though, because it wasn't just like you're carrying the tripod and pressing play and then running. You're not like that.
I was a one-man band.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, what if the audio like didn't level or something? What if like you didn't press record? That's insane.
It's crazy, and it's dark because it's the middle of the night, so you can't see anything, and you know, and I'm just driving around. You don't know where anything is, and it was really, it was such a life experience, and you have to learn quickly. But you see, just not even incrementally, but you just see like you grow so much too, because you have to. And it's repetition, and it's with anything else. I think, you know, sometimes I think that's where everything is similar. It's like that 10,000 hour rule. You know, you want to become an expert in anything, spend 10,000 hours doing it, right? And like, so you just, it's the repetition, and it's just doing it. And I got better, and you know, and I think that's where the restaurant helped too, because the pace, you know, being, you know, you got triple sat, and you know,
multitasking,
right? And you got to
putting on that face.
Oh yeah, and you got to act like everything's cool. Yeah. So I actually think, because people sometimes think like, I think being an actor helps a lot going into news, because you have to understand how to, like, especially as an anchor, to see a show from 10,000 feet, to know that the tone, and being able to know like what tone you need to have throughout the show, and like especially just being able to have a high emotional intelligence, and then also being able to like create a good relationship with your co-anchor. You know, it's like the whole like the improv rules, like yes and, you know, you want to do that with your co-anchor too. And but I think the restaurant experience taught me a lot too, because it teaches you how to multitask, work under pressure, sense of urgency, but then like everything's cool. Right?
Yeah, so I'm an on-camera host as well, and I actually took a class from a guy that came from journalism and came from news, and he said the same thing. It's like baptism by fire. But the craziest thing is that you guys really do have to just go to whatever market takes you. Because he was pushing it for people, and he said it's really good experience because you learn a lot, like you said. But he was like, you have to just be cool moving wherever the job is. So how has that kind of like affected your life and, you know, the direction it's gone in?
Well, I've been lucky in that. So when I was in Texas, and I was very homesick, because my now wife and I were together at the time, and being long distance was hard. And, you know, when you're at a new news job too, they're counting on you to fill in for everyone during the holidays too, you know, so you don't really get time off. So it was tough, but it's sort of a love of the game thing, you know. You know, you're getting a great opportunity, so it's worth it. You know, and it certainly felt like it was. And I was lucky, because between the producing, the anchoring, reporting, doing all of that, because I'd have to write my own shows too. A lot of what I read on the air was stuff I wrote, you know. But I gained a lot of great experience, and I was able to use that experience to get my job in Santa Barbara, where I was an anchor for 3.5 years. I was able to get that job because of the experience I had in Texas. So, you know, because typically when you go work, like you brought up, you go work somewhere in the country, typically you're on a contract for like a year or two. And then when your contract's up, typically people feel like they want to go to a bigger market, maybe, you know, more opportunity, maybe a better paycheck, or maybe a job they like a little better. Maybe they're a reporter and want to be an anchor, or maybe they were an anchor and want to be a reporter. So I had found out, like a colleague I went to college with was like, hey, there's an opening at our station in Santa Barbara. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, that'd be awesome. I get to be basically home. It's an hour from LA, you know? So I was able to interview for that, and I had to audition twice for it. And then
Self-tape?
Well, actually, they bring you in and they have you read copy and sort of do like a mock newscast.
Okay.
And then they just had me chit chat with like the other morning talent to see if I'd be a good fit.
Connection and yes anding.
Yeah.
And,
So that's where the acting helps, right?
Exactly.
but actually it was very natural.
I was faking the entire thing.
Right.
I didn't
hate her. No,
right? You guys
they hire you when you're honest.
Yeah. No, I liked my team. For the most part, I mean, there are divas in the industry, but for the most part, I've enjoyed everyone I've worked with.
It's just the weather girls, isn't it?
Don't call them that. Actually, every person I ever worked with that did weather, they were all either certified meteorologists or were in their training. And man,
they have to know
stuff they have to know how to do and be able to think on their feet. Plus, they're all those graphics you see and everything. They put all that together.
They put that together. That's good for them. I don't know about
the bigger markets. There's more of a team, but man.
And they get the flack, everyone's like, I'm sorry, you said it was going to rain. It didn't. Well, all right.
Right. Yeah.
Anymore.
In local news, you do get some flack from viewers.
That's really cool.
But yeah, so then I was in Santa Barbara for 3.5 years, and that was probably for me, that was probably one of the most important times of my life in terms of feeling like I was really a part of something incredible, because we had so much local news in our market. And, at a local news station, you're obviously going to cover the national news and stuff that's happening internationally, but your bread and butter is really what's happening in your community. And while I was working there, we had an unprecedented amount of news. I mean, we had the Thomas Fire, which was this huge wildfire that broke out in Ventura County that became the largest wildfire in California history. Up until that point, there's been several since that have been bigger. But that was, we were on the air, what they call wall-to-wall coverage, where you're not taking commercial breaks because you're telling people to evacuate. And that was terrifying, but also it was one of those moments in life where you're like, there's nowhere else in the world I'm supposed to be right now than in this chair.
What a powerful moment.
Yeah. And just knowing that you're helping people. And that was huge. And just seeing how a team came together and how, because we had the Thomas Fire, and then right after, once the fire started calming down, there were all these burn scars up in the mountains. And then in early January, we had this once in 100-year storm that came through Santa Barbara, and it triggered these massive mudslides that killed 23 people. And the 101 was completely covered in mud. They had to shut it down. And homes were destroyed. And there's still a lot of debris. I was just in Santa Barbara over the summer, and they still haven't rebuilt everything. It's amazing how much work they've done, but the level of disaster was just, it was really something. And so that was about 2 months of coverage that we did. And I think, Kristen, you coming from theater, it felt like Tech Week every week for 2 months.
Oh my God. And so everybody's on edge. Everybody wants to wring each other's neck. And it's just stay quiet and stay on your feet. That's
it was, everyone was dragging. One of my colleagues, Joey Batista, who's a phenomenal anchor who's still there. Him and I would swap ties to make it look like we
actually showered and moved
weren't
on.
Wearing the same thing every day, because we were stranded at one point.
Oh my God.
Because our path home was shut down too. Thank God we didn't lose our homes or anything. We were all way south of that, but we were up in the hotels with a lot of people who had been evacuated. And that was something where it was awful what happened, but it was also really beautiful to see how the community came together, and the first responders, and just how heroic they are, firefighters and police, and just all this people just willing to put their own lives on the line to save other people was incredible. So covering that was really something. And then I did a lot of, because I was an anchor and I was one of the faces of the station, I wrote a lot of floats. I did a lot of charity events. I emceed a lot of events. Got to interview some pretty cool people. And then the other thing too, because that was 2018 when we had the mudslides and the end of the fire. And then it didn't stop, because later that year, in I would say late 2018, actually the 2-year anniversary just passed, but the borderline mass shooting in Thousand Oaks. And I was on scene for that all day. And when I got to the scene, I got a tip. One of my producers called me and said, hey, we think there was like a shooting at the Borderline Bar and Grill. If you want to just go check it out on your way up to work. And I said, okay, I'll go. I'll shoot some video on my phone or something. And it's probably not much, right? But when I got there, you could smell the gunpowder. There was every major news van was there too, like CNN and Fox News and ABC News. Like the networks had come in, not just the local news outlets.
Yeah, everybody. I was with Monica. I was staying at your place at that time. I was visiting from Chicago, and that happened, and I was like, I can't, because I mean, Thousand Oaks is what, 15 minutes from where I used to live when I worked at Woodland Hills.
Dancing.
Yeah, line dancing. Yeah,
go to that bar.
You used to go?
Yeah.
To Borderline? Yeah. I know a lot of people that had gone there when they were younger and stuff, and that was unbelievable when Sheriff Dean, then Sheriff, who was the sheriff, then came out and said, I have 13 people who died. That was
tragic.
You could hear a pin drop, and there was probably 50 of us crowded around, and that day was just, it was so tragic. And then for that community to then have to deal with a wildfire that broke out that day, and then see the people who had maybe lost someone or had just survived it and then had to evacuate. I mean, talk about like PTSD and having so much to carry. So that was a lot to just see, especially as we went into nightfall, and then you could smell the smoke and you could see the fires, So
it's a crazy time. Like one thing after another, it felt like.
Yeah.
For sure.
So are you still at that network now, or what are you doing now?
So now I'm a news anchor at KFI AM 640 here in Los Angeles. Okay. So I do the news updates. There's hosts. It's talk radio. So
what made you go into the transition of on-camera news anchor to radio?
When my contract was up at KYT, I knew I could have stayed, but I think I wanted to I was ready for a new chapter and ready to do some new things. And actually, it was interesting because I took a little bit of a break, and then I started getting a bunch of acting roles. It's so funny because it goes full circle, right? And had done a lot of TV work, and I'd always kind of had a foot still in that, and just started getting a lot of jobs, a lot of times playing a reporter, because they want that cadence and they want that authenticity.
Experience.
So, yeah, exactly. So, because I'd done Bird Box, and then.
So the voice in Bird Box, were you the voice when she was in the infirmary thing, and then she got the radio call, or?
In the house, when they're all gathered in the house, and I'm telling people to stay inside and not them.
I just watched that movie the other day.
It's
I love that movie. It's a great movie.
It became such who knew it was going to blow up like that? I was not.
Because after Quiet Place came out, I know this is again off topic, but Quiet Place came out, and then that came out. It was just so, I think everyone was in the mood for it, and obviously Sandra Bullock is amazing, and people were just like, what? A Netflix movie with Sandra Bullock? Let's see. Yeah. And I think that it was a great movie. So, but congratulations on that. That's good.
Yeah. So it was one of those things where I was booking a lot of jobs, and then a friend of mine and I had co-written a Christmas movie that had come out. And so there's just a lot going on. And I was talking to the news director at KFI, and I knew that he was interested in working with me as soon as an opening came up. And so, I've been there several months now, and I just anchored during the election and covered all that. I like radio a lot because I think I like radio in the same way I like podcasts. I think that, I love TV and local news, and, I'll always be open to that. But sometimes I can be somewhat, agnostic in terms of the medium, I think just being a storyteller, and the opportunity at KFI just felt like a great fit, even though it was radio, and which I really enjoy. And it's a little different. I think, like, one, I get to wear sweats to work instead of a suit.
Well, that's all you wanted,
Yeah,
It's just like,
yeah.
decision made.
I went from an apron to a suit to sweats. So there's that. And then, I think just like when you're in the car driving, you have podcasts, you have music, and then there's radio. And if you need like breaking news and you need news alerts, like really, you shouldn't be like on social media while you're driving, right? So you have the radio. And so I think it's very indispensable. I've really enjoyed it. I work with a great team, and
I think personally, your voice and your personality would come out and like shine on radio. I mean, I heard that you got that. It's just like, it's like perfect fit,
Yeah,
really.
It's a closer drive too, with the offices in Burbank at the iHeartMedia building, and it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it, and the writing is similar too, because there's all the things you do, as a talent when you're, on the mic, or it's like, people don't see, even with this podcast you're doing, like, people don't see the amount of work that you do behind the scenes to put it all together, and being an on-air host, Monica, like all the things you have to do to put it together. It runs deep.
It's true. That's for sure. I see it with her.
What are your goals? Is it staying in radio, back to TV, acting? Like, what's your 5-year plan?
All the above.
I think, really, I'm a storyteller. I think people always say, well, who does news and acting and does both? Oprah.
Yeah. And a magazine and books. And
I don't look anything like her, but I like that. I think she loves good stories, and whether it's long form journalism talk show, or it's her, in a HBO movie, or if it's her on doing 60 Minutes segment. I mean, I think that the actor in me will always be there, because I think that's just in my DNA. It's how I was born. I was born into that. And, but I think what I really love is the collaboration, because you get the same feeling like when you're in a newsroom and you have just a really good show, and maybe you broke big stories and you had a great live report, and just, you have those shows where you say afterwards, like, that was awesome. It's the same thing, maybe during like a run when you're doing a play or something, right? And you're like, tonight that was awesome,
You can feel it. Yeah, you can definitely feel it.
You feel it, right? And it's like riding a wave, and the energy you get from the other people you're working with, and like when it all comes together, and it's you kind of have a us against the world kind of feeling too, and I love that. I think I'm a junkie for that. So yeah, I mean, whether that's continuing in radio or going back into TV news or acting, I think just as long as I'm always doing things that interest me and challenge me, I think sometimes you hit points where you feel that I think the worst is when you feel like you're in a position or you're in something where you feel like you're not growing. And for me, the growth is huge. And that makes me hopeful too, because, 2 years ago, if you had asked me, you had told me I'd be doing radio in LA, I'd been like, really? I'm a TV news guy, 10 years ago, you had told me I'd be working in TV news, I would have said, no, I'm an actor. So I think that I'm always open to new things. And I think that's part of always being hungry and wanting to learn and grow, because you never know what kind of exciting things might be ahead.
So so if you could say like any advice that you would give to someone who either wants to go towards journalism, towards acting, or maybe just like thinking about going into radio in general. Multi-passionate. Yeah, exactly. Someone who's just like, I know that I want something out there. What do I want?
Right.
What would you say?
Well, I think that, I would always say to always overwhelm yourself. Take on more than you think you can handle. Because it's amazing what we as human beings can do when we're pushed. And sometimes we have to give ourselves that push. We're not always going to have like a great mentor or a great teacher. There's a lot of moments in between where you really have to, I think the push is good. And there's times where I look back on it and I'm like, I could have worked a little harder then, or I could have, but that's the other thing too, is it's bad to look in the rearview mirror too much. And that's one thing and I know I'm not the only one, but one thing that is hard to do is sometimes we'll think back, oh, why didn't I do this? Or maybe if I had done this, I would have gotten this outcome. But I think that's death. I think you have to always be like looking
forward.
Looking forward. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, like staying present and looking forward, going balanced in that, not just actually, not looking forward at all, because I feel like journalism was probably, you had some idea of what you might have wanted, but yeah, staying present in the moment,
I think, yeah. And, the overwhelming yourself too will allow you to take on new things and realize there's something you might love that's out there that you don't realize, So I think being open is really good. And then I think hard work, there's no way around that. Like you have to put the work in. There's no shortcuts. And then valuing yourself and having boundaries, I think is important too. And finding that balance between being yes and, but then also knowing, like, listening to that voice in yourself too, I think is really big.
Mm-hmm. Especially listening to the voice, I feel is hard at times, definitely, because you don't want to be wrong. You really don't want to be like, okay, well, questioning if what your path that you're choosing is correct. And sometimes you just gotta jump.
I had a theater teacher tell me one time, because before I took the job in Texas, I had been offered a job at another station too. And that happens a lot, right? Sometimes it's not easy because you'll think like, oh, I really want this opportunity, but you'll be given like 2 opportunities at once and you have to choose. And that's tough, right? Too, because you're thinking, you're trying to weigh what's better. And he said to me, he gave me some good advice that I thought really kind of liberated me a little bit from the indecision. He said, you're going to have to make a lot of choices in your life. What choice you make doesn't matter as much as that you continue to keep making choices. And that was like, okay, it takes the pressure off, right? And it just makes, okay, I'm just going to overwhelm myself. I'm just going to, and if it doesn't work, I'll go do something else, or I'll figure this out. So, and I think the last thing too, because of social media and everything, it's really important that we don't compare ourselves to other people.
Comparing, it's so easy to do. I just watched The Social Dilemma today, actually. It was really funny that you mentioned that. But it's
such good advice. Thank you so much. This is awesome. If you want to find you, where can they find you and all of the different things that you do?
So for news updates, I keep my Twitter just for news. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at DannyMaxNews. My work Facebook page is facebook.com/IamDannyMax. And then my Instagram is kind of more for like creative stuff. It's not really, I don't really use it for news. But you can find me at Danny Max on Instagram.
Okay.
That's awesome.
And we're going to link to all of that stuff below too, so that people can find you and follow you and all of that good stuff. So thank you so much for being on the show today. This was awesome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, let me know when this is posted. I will, I'd love to watch it back.
Oh, for sure. We'll keep you updated on everything. And thank you again. Like, I really love hearing about the story and, everywhere you've been, that's insane. Done such great things.
Thanks. It's great to hear that you guys have created this really awesome team too, and through traveling and through doing these things that you both love, and I think it's awesome that you're using this time too to create more forms of content, because I think people need that right now. So
I agree.
Staying busy.
I agree. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, this was awesome, guys. If you want to check this out, we're also going to be throwing the video up on our YouTube page. Make sure to head over and leave a review for the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. I'm one of your hosts, Monica Ortega.
And I'm Kristen Herman.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.